Hammer Down Racing Report. And now your hosts, Scott Hammer and Ron Miller.
Welcome, race fans, to the Hammer Down Racing Report for Thursday, March 2nd. It is the first show of March. It's crazy. Get rid of that. Oh, wait, I have you muted. Sorry. Not used to not having you here in the studio.
Yeah.
There you are.
Scott's got cooties, so I'm
recovering from my cooties, yeah.
I've been forced to stay away.
Cooties 19. Welcome to show number 270, as a matter of fact. Scott Hammer, Ron Miller coming at you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter from the, well, at least I'm in the John Young Racing for First Responders Dave Kemmer studio. Still number 174. No, we were 174 in Apple Podcasts in Australia this past week.
Ooh.
As a matter of fact. So
that's because we yelled at them last week.
Yeah, our Australian audience stepping it up. Number 186 in the U.S. That's in the leisure automotive category on Apple Podcasts. And thanks to last week's guest, Scott Melton, and his sponsor, Donna's Donuts, sent us some donuts. They're sitting on my table. You haven't had a chance to have them yet.
I haven't had them yet.
Is my son allowed to have some? He expressed some interest as he was walking out for class.
Well, since, yeah, he can have half of them.
Okay.
Half.
Tonight on the show, we're going to be speaking with Dustin Jarrett from FloRacing, Eldora Speedway announcer extraordinaire. Yeah, we're going to embarrass him a little bit with the Oakshade Celebrity Charity Race he was in. We're going to see if I'm sure he's had some more embarrassing experiences than that.
I don't know.
We'll talk to him just a little bit. I'm sure you'll recognize his voice if you are a fan of FloRacing.
Everybody's a fan of FloRacing.
New sponsor this week. My brother's not. Well, I guess he's not a fan of Flow Sports because apparently it's a long story. He had a issue.
All right.
It had to do with hockey and things got messed up. But new sponsor this week. I didn't even tell you about this, Ron.
No.
DCR Graphics has jumped on board. Speaking of which, I probably should put a little scroll there. There they are. Locally owned and operated. They do full wrapped starting at just $350. They also specialize in banner stickers, die-cast, and T-shirt designs. They can do graphics for any car, any kind of car. Sprint cars, late models, modified, stock cars, compacts. I'm guessing you could probably do your old grocery getter if you wanted to as well. If it can be measured, they can do the graphics for it. Call or text DCR Graphics at 419-308-9523. You can also check them out on Facebook at facebook.com/DCR Graphics.
Are you allowed to say where they're located?
Sure.
Okay. Well, you didn't say where they were located. You just said call
Northwest Ohio. I don't know exactly. I didn't look that up. I could find out.
Right.
Dale Cole is the guy in charge there.
Okay.
So, yeah. Contact Freeze Frame Photos for all your racing photo needs, from action shots to victory lane. New items they are offering include custom cups for the kids, 20-ounce tumblers, water bottles, and more. Customize them with freeze frame photos. Any photos you like, racing photos, victory lane photos, they can put them on there. And if you're got a senior in high school, it's time for senior pics. They do those as well. Call Charlie, 419-476-9978. Freeze frame photos, special moments frozen in time. And Oakshade Raceway, where the fastest meet your race, oakshaderaceway.com. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram to keep up to date as to when that schedule will be coming out. I can tell you the season opener is coming up Saturday, April 29th with the Sportsman, Super Stocks, and the Compacts. Also, thanks to Big D's. We'll be giving away some Big D's pizza a little bit later on the show. Ron Miller Race Cars and Headhunters Barber Studio and Salon in Perrysburg. How about we bring Dustin in here?
Let's bring Dustin in.
All right. Mr. Jarrett.
He's still there. He is.
There I am.
There he is.
I'm here. Let's go.
Amazing.
Let's go. Hey, a shout out to Dale Cole, DCR Graphics, Weston, Ohio.
Weston, thank you.
Weston,
I knew they were around in here.
All right. Well, it's the power of Google is amazing whenever I'm back in the green room.
I thought you knew that. It was like your old friends. Me and Dale, we go way back.
Me and Dale, we're tight, man. We're tight. What's up, fellas? How are we?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
Long time no see to both of you. I don't get up to Northwest Ohio as much as I'd like to anymore.
No. And I first met you when you were doing the announcing at Eldora. And do you still do some announcing there?
I still do the Dream and the World, and then this year I'll be back for the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. So their finale, the Dirt Track World Championship, is going to be at Eldora this year. So with our relationship at Flo with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, we're streaming all of their events this year. I actually will get to call that race as well. It's a super cool deal. Like, at the 4 drivers racing for the championship, $100,000 to win race, $200,000 championship. That's going to be a pretty sweet deal.
That's been kind of a controversial, or I guess in some people's mind, kind of a controversial championship chase style, as opposed to just doing it straight up before they kind of go on after the NASCAR model there. I don't know. I could go either way. It doesn't bother me either doing that, but you're looking forward to that then?
I am. I think it's here's the cool thing about it, right? Take all biases aside and things like that. 2 years ago, the winner of the Lucas Oil Championship got $75,000. Fast forward to this year, 5th place is $75,000. So there's the cool thing about it is there's so much money on the line. Look, we're all race fans, right? We come from a breed where we don't always accept change that well, right? We all get stuck in our ways. I'm as guilty as anybody. So when something like that comes along, I think it's kind of natural for us to be like, man, I don't know how I feel about that. Look, when that 3rd week of October rolls around and there's 4 guys racing for a championship, $200,000 to win the championship, $100,000 to win the race, I think everybody's going to completely forget whether they liked it or not, and they're going to be all in. They're going to push every chip out on the table for that one.
DJ, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about how dirt is grabbing onto some NASCAR things. How would you feel about a choose cone?
I think that would be really cool. It would.
I do too.
It would. Listen, and we can all say this. There are some drivers that would get it. They would grasp onto it and understand it really quick. There are some that they would be sitting in the race car, scratching their head, saying, "No, wait a minute, where do I go? What do I do here?" So I would love it if we could get the drivers to understand how it works.
What are you trying to say, Dustin?
They don't have
nothing at all, Ron. Nothing at all.
The biggest difference is we don't have the spotters at the local level as the NASCAR guys do. So I think they kind of help with the decision making as far as that goes. But
leave it to the driver.
I think I'm with you, Ron. I think it would be great.
How cool? I mean, how cool would it be though? Like you got a lockdown racetrack, right? That's maybe somewhat one groove on the bottom of the track. You could have like 5 or 6 guys all in one line that choose the bottom. The 7th place guy goes around all of them and chooses the outside, and suddenly he's got a chance maybe for a podium finish.
Yeah, well, and the top side, the first lap or so, it could be a crapshoot, even if it is locked down on the bottom.
Ron, I don't think I've ever seen you run the top side before.
Hey, be still now. Old guys learn new things.
No, you mentioned MAV TV kind of joined with Flo Racing. I mean, was that a big deal for you? I know you're excited now because you get to call the Lucas Oil late model races.
Yeah, it was huge, man. It really was, and it's so funny how this sport works, right? Because we've got both personal and professional race relationships that we grow close to, and sometimes you drift apart, not drift apart in a bad way, but you're closer to some folks at different stages of your life and your career than others. And in this deal, there was a time where I thought it was going to be really close and it was going to happen. And then there was a time where I thought, man, there's no way it's going to happen. And then really the middle of last year, early to middle of last year, things really started coming together there. And man, it's been great. Not to sound like a politician, but I mean, all seriousness, it's been a really, really big deal for Flo. It's cool for me because I get an opportunity to do a few more races. I won't do the entire schedule with Lucas this year, but myself and my good friend Ben Shelton, we're going to join all of the races that are taped for MAV TV. So it's cool. It was also really nice to spend about 18 days in Florida in February too.
Yeah.
So
the weather up here wasn't horrible. So
no, I saw that.
Yeah, it definitely could be worse. Although I'm not sure what's happening tomorrow for Ron, at least north of the state line. I think is supposed to be.
Yeah, and I watched just before we came on, and I don't know, man. It could get ugly.
I'm working from home, so I don't care.
Just 4 or 5 miles south of here, it's going to be all rain.
What's the next trip for you, Dustin? Where are you headed for your next race?
So I actually leave in about 2.5 weeks. I'm flying out to California, not to call races, but to just to be on site. We have a USAC West Coast midget race at Bakersfield. A couple nights later, we have actually got the first high limit race of the year. We've got the Kyle Larson Brad Sweet Series. Their first race of the season is going to be on a Tuesday night at Tulare, California. So I'm going to be out there for that as well. Again, I won't be on the call for that one, but I'll be there just to kind of make sure that everything is coached. I'm kind of like a fireman, right? Like as long as the blaze isn't too high, my job's pretty easy. Fire starts getting too high, I'm running around with a fire extinguisher all night long. But I'm looking forward to that as well. That'll be 2 new tracks for me to go to, and then I'll head down to actually the FloRacing or FloSports headquarters down in Austin, Texas for a few days.
Ooh. So are you going to be doing any open wheel stuff this year?
I am not. No, Ron. I was super blessed, man. I had the opportunity to call that very first high limit race last year for Kyle Larson, right. Brad Sweet, and that was cool. And full disclosure, and Scott, you'll appreciate this. Honest to goodness, I put more time and effort into my announcing notes for that race than probably any other race the entire year outside of the Gateway Dirt Nationals, because I mean I know those guys, but there, and again, Scott, you can relate, and Ron, you can as well. There's knowing guys, and then there's knowing guys to call the race, right? And especially with streaming now, when you're getting, 10,000+ different subscribers logging in and watching these races, you want to make sure that you at least sound like you know what you're talking about. So, Ron, I don't know, unless I jump on and maybe help Blake Anderson on an all-star race or two during Ohio Sprint Speed Week. Is probably just going to be late model stuff for me. But man, we've got so much of that now with Castrol FloRacing Night in America and the 2 biggies at Eldora, and now these there's 12 or 14 of these Lucas Oil races that are taped for TV. That really and truly takes a big chunk of time out of my schedule. Plus, I got to come home every once in a while and make sure that my wife hasn't changed the locks on the doors, or has suitcases sitting outside, or dog doesn't like rip my leg off up to my shoulder or something. Yeah.
Well, with the 2 major series, there really is no off season anymore.
Yeah. And then you throw in the Gateway Dirt Nationals, in St. Louis, right. Missouri. And then a few weeks after that, we're spending about 12 or 14 days in Las Cruces, New Mexico for the Wild West Shootout. Speed Weeks happens like a week and a half after that. So they're really, really right now. I'm at home for 30 straight days. I honestly think that's my biggest break of the entire year.
Let's talk a little bit about streaming of the racing. I mean, when did you get into streaming?
I did the second race that Dirt on Dirt ever did live. That would have been way back in 2011, I think it was.
Did they have color back then?
Yeah. Ron remembers when there wasn't color.
Yeah, buddy.
So I mean, production has come. I mean, leaps and bounds. Has had it's come so far over the years. My dad, walked in the room, was watching, so was like, "Is this on a network?" No, they do pretty good now with streaming.
Sort of, Dad.
Yeah.
Listen, we did this. So we did the USA Nationals at Cedar Lake Speedway. It was one of the very first live stream broadcasts that really and truly anyone had ever done at the time. And again, this is 2011. And there were some audio issues, right? And like now when you have audio issues, it's relatively easy to diagnose. Back then, especially when you're first starting out, I mean, you're just running thousands of feet of cable right from a production trailer to the booth, and you're checking every auxiliary cord, and just you're jiggling every cord that you can handle. Well, long story short, they couldn't get it figured out, right? And so I literally stood on top of the press box with a microphone in my hand and was calling the race for the broadcast because we couldn't tap into the PA. Well, that was great up until the NAT sound, what we call the NAT sound, the natural sound of the race cars, was drowning out my voice. And so this is modern technology at its finest, right? So we took a cardboard case from a case of Mountain Dew and made a funnel out of it and put it on the microphone. I mean, so it's yay long, and I'm talking into this long funnel when I'm announcing, so that my voice projects down into it, and so that it doesn't pick up as much of the NAT sound or the natural sound of the cars. So that was one of the first events I did, and yeah, we've come just a little way since then.
And now, the camera work is spectacular anymore.
Oh yeah,
it's unbelievable how far they've come, and I mean, it's, you know, and even the stuff that we're using at this level pales in comparison to what you see at you know, college basketball or football or NASCAR or whatever else, right? I mean, and that's a true testament to the guys that are running the cameras, right? I mean, they're so good at what they do. They are on point with what we're talking about 80 to 85% of the time, you know, and that's, everyone always asks, why can't we get the cameras and the announcers lined up? Again, I think we do a pretty good job of that. But here's the reason behind that. We'll pull the curtain back a little bit. So when we're calling these races, we're doing two things. I always tell people I have one eye on the racetrack and I have one eye on the monitor in front of me that shows me what the people at home are seeing. When you do that, there are things on the racetrack that I might see that our camera folks who don't have that same view, because they're looking at a viewfinder that's about yay big, right? They may not be able to see something that I see. So I want to make sure that I call that out, or vice versa. I might be so locked into a battle for a transfer spot that I might miss a battle for the lead that's happening on the track, and they're there to pick that up. So we're pretty accurate. Again, 80, 85, maybe 90% of the time. But to your point, Ron, the camera work is spectacular, and that is a true testament to the folks that are doing that. It really is.
And if people haven't been streaming any racing because of what they saw 10 years ago, they need to take another look.
It's not like a dude with his phone there in the stands.
That's a fact. That is a fact. It's there's never an exact science to it, right? Because you've got half the people that are saying you need to zoom in more, and the other half of the people are saying no, zoom back, we want to see more, and so you try to do that juggling act of what people want to see, and again, that's where it really comes into play, right? Because our video team at Flow, and the others are like this as well, you know, whether it's Dirt Vision or whether it's Speed Sport or whoever it is. They're race fans, right? And I always use my wife as a great example. She's a volleyball coach, and I tell folks I could take a video camera and video a volleyball match, right? You don't necessarily. It helps if you know the athletes in the sport, but it's not a necessity. Racing, you can't just put someone on top of a press box that knows video equipment but doesn't know racing, because Scott, when we're announcing, a lot of times we get caught up in just saying. And just saying drivers' names, right? Well, if you got someone up top that doesn't know who those drivers are, they're going to be out to lunch. So it really and truly is a special skill for as much as it takes to drive a race car on the track or to be in a booth calling a race. I think it takes twice as much skill to operate one of those cameras and to keep folks at home abreast as to what's happening. Yeah,
and we only see just a few people on the front end of the broadcast. How big is a crew for a typical event to cover?
You know, it really varies. I mean, we've got some that we can pull off, you know, to the point of what we were just talking about with today's technology and everything. There's some that we can pull off with literally just a couple people on site. You know, you can have an on-site producer, a camera person, and maybe one other, and that's it. You can even have remote producers now, right? You can have a camera person on site and somebody sitting at home actually, you know, pulling all the strings to produce it. We do something bigger like a World 100 or a Gateway Dirt Nationals or something like that. There may be 12, 15 plus people on site to handle this. Gateway in particular, because you're inside the dome and you're trying to cover so many different aspects from not just the racing, but the fans, and you want all the different camera angles of what's happening. You know, we're going to have 20 plus people on site for something like that.
I like the NASCAR-esque pit reporters. You know, there's nothing like sticking a microphone in a racer's face after he's just stopped.
Well, the adrenaline's still going.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There are a lot of opinions about that. I am one that I'm obviously I'm not shy, right? And you guys have both known me for a while now, and I have no problem doing that for the exact reason that you mentioned. I want to get that raw emotion, and we're super fortunate. We're in a sport where we have access to the athletes, to the drivers, to do that. Not everybody gets that opportunity. LeBron James goes out and throws down a slam dunk or whatever. You can't just go up and stick a microphone in his face. But Shane Clanton, hits a Ute tire at the Wild West shootout and destroys his race car, and we can walk around on the racetrack and put a microphone in front of him and get that raw emotion. And I think that's something that often we take for granted, that we have that opportunity. But to your point too, Ron, again, we're really blessed. We've got some great folks doing this. My good friend.
Well, and not all racers are Charlie Hufford either.
That's right. That's exactly right. We've got Ben Shelton that works with us, who I truly believe is the best pit reporter in the entire business. And he knows not just the drivers, but he knows the right questions to ask at the right times to bring out those raw emotions of the drivers too.
So he knows the wrong things to ask.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So not to put you on the spot here, but what do you say to the folks that say that the streaming is hurting local racetracks?
That's again, that's a tough balancing act that you try to ride, right? It really and truly is. My biggest thing is I look back, and it's really hard for me to pinpoint any sport, racing or anything, where streaming has hurt that sport, where streaming has had a negative effect and driven that sport out of business. On the contrary, you look at things like pro bull riding or arena cross or, UFC, another great example, where those events, a lot of them started off as streaming and then they blew up in popularity because of it. Right. When your favorite sports team comes to town, you want to go to that event and see them play. If you're a Cleveland Browns fan or a Cincinnati Bengals fan or whatever it is. And racing, I think if we do it right, can have that same effect too. If it's done right, we can get people to go to these racetracks and say, like, man, I got to get to Oakshade and watch Rusty Schlenk, or I've got to go see the World 100 at Eldora Speedway. Local racing as a whole, as the three of us know, and probably a lot of the folks watching as well, it's in a tough spot right now, right?
A lot.
There is not as much money floating around as what there used to be. The cost of everything is going up, and that's not a racing issue. That's something that we're all experiencing right now. And again, to be quite honest, there are less fish in the pond, and there are more fishermen, so to speak, also. And that also adds an element of diversity to all of this. So to speak.
You were talking about the Lucas payoffs, but the weekly tracks are in a real tight spot because their expenses have gone up, and they have to keep a tight rein on what they're charging to get in. So they can't match the purses that haven't covered the expenses for the racers.
Yeah, what's the old adage? If it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
Yeah.
And that, I think of racetrack promoting as being at the very top of that list. We've probably all seen the meme, the Dr. Seuss meme of the book that says, "If I ran a racetrack," right?
Yeah.
It's very easy to be a Monday morning quarterback in this sport. I always tell folks, I've been asked before, hey man, we'd love to have you promote this track, promote this event. And that will always be a hard pass for me because I've got a pretty good group of friends. I'm not in the business to go piss anybody off, right? I got enough people that don't like me as it is. I don't need any more. I don't need any more people that don't like me.
So, through your career, who would you say has given you the best to interview?
Wow, that's a great question. In his heyday, Scott Bloomquist always gave great sound bites. I think that we all know that. That's probably low hanging fruit. A few years back, we talked about the USA Nationals at Cedar Lake Speedway. A few years back, when I was at Cedar Lake, we actually did not have the race live that year. It was the first year that it was on Dirt Vision as part of the World of Outlaws program. That was also the same year that Bobby Pierce and Tyler Erb got together. They had their big on-track incident, and Bob Pierce ran out on the track, and, Tyler Erb tried to, drive away from him and officials. There's a whole lot of things going on. Turbo got thrown out. I was there, even though it wasn't live, but I was there and interviewed both Pierce and Tyler Erb afterwards. And those are sound bites that, number one, will always stick with me. But number two, at the time, and this has been, I think, almost 3 years ago now, that was the most watched clip at that time. The most watched clip in the history of Dirt on Dirt and the history of Flow Racing. Those two interviews right there. And so both of them are always really, really good for a soundbite or two, especially Turbo. You never know what the guy's going to say, and he's got that raw emotion that he always wears on his sleeve, and he's himself, and that's something that again, we're very fortunate we get access to these drivers right up front, close and personal like that, and I like it when they're themselves, when they don't have to play the political game, and they can give you those good sound bites.
Is the Charlie Mefford interview from Gateway Dirt National, is that the top one now?
Charlie is definitely up there for ones that I've seen. Blake Anderson was actually down in the infield and caught that interview, but it's so funny. Someone sent that to me yesterday, and again, these are things, and this, Scott, that you don't realize till after the fact, that I was watching that clip yesterday. I don't know that I had watched it ever, right? Since Gateway, and I'm watching it, and you can hear myself and Jerry Van Sickle and Ben Shelton laughing in the background while Charlie is talking also.
Yeah, we had him on the show a few weeks ago. He is definitely a character.
He's a peach, man. He's
real, and what you saw in that interview is really him.
And again, guys like that, or Tyler Erb, or Kenny Wallace, whoever, when they could be real like that and not give the cookie cutter interviews, I love that kind of stuff. And again, you guys know that from what you do, Scott. You know that from an announcing standpoint. It just you almost kind of feed off that emotion a little bit.
So, what about an embarrassing moment? What, you had any most embarrassing moments? I mean, man, something more than the Mountain Dew cardboard thing with the microphone.
I trip over my tongue probably more times than I care to mention, truth be told. One of them was when Scott Bloomquist won the year that 2015, Bloomquist won the Dream at Eldora. It was actually the year he ended up being 25 pounds light at the scales.
Oh, yeah.
Before that, when he's crossing the line, I actually said, Scott Bloomquist wins the World 100. But it was the Dream, and so
that's not too bad, though.
I caught it. It's not too bad.
You're at the right track, at least.
Right, yeah, right track at least, for sure. And I caught it right when I said it, and of course you have this oh no moment, and so I gave this little pause because again I kind of know how the process works, and I said Scott Bloomquist wins his 8th. Dirt late model Dream. And so I knew, and our editing team actually went back in, and now every clip you see of that race has that line in it instead of when he actually crossed the stripe. So thank God. And again, Ron talked earlier about how far we've come in streaming. Thank God for the editors, or else that would have been that would have probably been more of a major flub than what it was.
Dean Henry, one of our listeners here, he's keeps mentioning these eating strawberries on the drive home this year. What's that? What's that?
Oh yeah, there is. Yeah, there is.
That had to have something to do with Florida.
Yeah. So we so one of the biggest content pieces that Flow Racing has, and this started with Dirt on Dirt a few years back, is something called the Drive Home, right? So for the folks that are watching that aren't familiar with it, all it started was Michael Rigsby grabbing his phone, putting it up in the dash of his car and recording us guys talking on the way home from the race, just like the three of us would if we were driving home from Oakshade one night, sitting around talking and bantering and everything else. So this year at the track, they thank you, Kyle. Yes, the drive home is awesome. So this year they gave me a quart of strawberries up in the press box, and of course you know how it is when you're announcing, you really don't get a chance to eat or anything else, especially with these streams being live and everything. So and you also know when you're announcing that you have this giant window of time where you can't eat at all, right? Like you can't eat anything when you're on the air. So I go from like 4 in the afternoon until 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. I hadn't anything to eat, so I'm walking out and we get to the car. And I'm like, I am so hungry. Like, we got to stop at Wawa on the way home. I'm starving. I realized, well, I got this quart of strawberries here with me. So on the drive home, and mind you, this is only like a 15-minute drive from East Bay back to the house, the rental house that we're staying at. I ate the entire quart of strawberries on the air on the drive home, which is again on YouTube and Facebook and all this other stuff as well. And I mean, we're talking big strawberry, these big, juicy Florida strawberries too. I absolutely annihilated those things on the way home, on the drive home. They didn't stand a chance.
No suffering afterwards?
No suffering afterwards. Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I may or may not have washed it down with a little bourbon when I got back to the house.
So you mentioned the Gateway Dirt Nationals. I would kind of lean toward that as your answer to this next question, but what is your favorite event to cover?
Man, that's such a tough call because favorite is such a moving target, and that's not a political.
How about what are some of your favorites? How's that?
Yeah, there's a good one. Gateway is up there. Gateway is also, again, if I'm being very candid, is so much work, right? Because you've got, I mean, this past year we had 140 late models that were pre-entered, and I mean, I'm late model to the bone, man. I mean, I when I'm not announcing events, I'm watching at home on Flow, or I'm attending a local race, or I'm going to a new track I've never been to or whatever. But when you get 140 entries and you look down through the list and there's about 50 of those guys that you've never even heard of before, you are doing everything you possibly can. You're getting on Facebook, you're Googling them, you're trying to figure out any information that you can. You're reaching out to them on Facebook or Twitter or whatever else to get name pronunciations and accomplishments and correct hometowns and this other stuff. So it's a lot of fun, but man, it's a lot of work too. And again, this year at Gateway is a great example. Thursday and Friday, super smooth. You know, we're on the air for 5, maybe 6 hours, and that was it. And then you get a night like Saturday where, you know, guys just kind of lose their mind and they're ripping the fence down and flipping over and everything else. And you're getting caution after caution after caution. And it's one thing when you have cautions at a local track, as you know, Scott, because you can just throw some music on, or you can just step away or let the fans enjoy themselves. But when you've got 10,000 plus people watching at home on a live broadcast, you can only cut to commercial breaks so many times. And so you have to fill dead air. And then before you know it, you're on the air 8, 9, 10, 11 hours. And that's, that can be a challenge at times too. But to get back to the original question, not to get us too far down a rabbit hole, that's one of my favorites. The Wild West Shootout has really become a favorite of mine. Vado Speedway Park in Las Cruces is gorgeous. It's just, it is one of the top 3, 5 facilities in the entire country. What Royal Jones and his team have done out there is just spectacular. And it's not just a gorgeous facility, as you guys have maybe seen, has provided some of the best racing that we've seen anywhere all year, the last couple of years too. And so that's become one of my favorites. Eldora will always have a special place in my heart too, right? The World and the Dream. I mean, not just are they the 2 biggest dirt late model events in the entire country, but Eldora for me really and truly kind of helped propel my career. And Tony is still, I consider him a good friend of mine, and that will always have a special place in my heart too.
So you mentioned that you're all about dirt late models. Why is that? What's got you gravitated towards dirt late models?
You just don't know any better, right? and I say that tongue in cheek, but I grew up in and now live and have lived for the last several years now in kind of southeast Ohio, right? And so this area that I grew up in, that was really all that I knew. You know, we ran late models weekly at a track that's just a mile down the road from where I live now, called St. Clairsville Speedway. We would go there almost every Friday night and watch guys like Mark Banal and Ty Long and drivers like that race late models on Fridays. And then when they closed, the next closest tracks to us would have been Pittsburgh, which always ran late models, and then the Zanesville area tracks, R&R Speedway. Ron, did you ever get to go to R&R?
I've never been to R&R.
Yeah, it's been long closed. It's been closed for a little over 20 years now, but they ran late models weekly. Midway.
What are you saying, Dustin? Why would I remember something 20 years ago?
Hey,
that's too recent.
If I can remember it, I figured you could remember it too. But just south of Zanesville was Midway Speedway in Crooksville, Ohio. They ran late models weekly. And then in the early 90s, 92 or 93, the Moran's track, Muskingum County, had reopened, right, and they ran late models. So all of our local tracks always ran dirt late models. And so I didn't know anything else, you know. I mean, that was my life from the time that I was a child, really clear up until probably the mid 90s or so when, you know, sprint cars, and you think back to the mid 90s, that's really when the All-Stars kind of started taking off, and, you know, Ohio Sprint Speed Week started becoming more popular and everything else. But I'll always be a dirt late model guy. The last few years, though, I've really taken a liking to IMCA racing, IMCA modifieds, IMCA stock cars out in Iowa and in that area. Really, just really competitive, really good. It really has brought the race fan in me back out, because they're so competitive. They're so close, and there's so much talent out there, and the tracks are just so well prepped. These are events where you can still go to them, and a guy can come from dead last and win, you know, and we still see that in late model. We've seen it this year, right? Hudson O'Neal wins Volusia from 23rd a few weeks ago.
Right.
Still see that in dirt late model racing and in sprint car racing, but it's more frequent with IMCA. And again, that I'm a race fan at heart, right? Just like you guys are. We're blessed we get to do what we do. But that has really brought the race fan back out in me watching those guys out there the last few years.
Did your dad run late models at all?
He did not. No, he ran a mechanics race one time at R&R Speedway in my uncle's car, and won it. Actually, he won the mechanics race. He ran a sportsman car for a few years. So he started off in street stocks, right? And again, we're talking in 92, 93. So that was the the old school bodies they had back then. The street stocks had the big wide tires on them that made them look really cool. He ran a class called Sportsman for 1 year, which really was not too dissimilar from the old Oakshade Sportsman rules, where they had the wide tires. They had like the old stock front clip cars, you know.
Yes, sir. That
was again 99. This would have been probably 95. That's what they had in and around the Zanesville area. So that was as close as he came. He ran a stock car, or a street stock bomb, or whatever you want to call it. He ran that pretty much the rest of his life up until about 5 years ago. He bought what we call the Kryptonite house car. It was actually one of the first Kryptonite modifieds the Carpenters ever built. Tyler Carpenter took it out and won like 8 million races the first year that they had it. He's had that car for the last 4 or 5 years now, and he's got like a checklist of 10 things that he's got to check off before he races, right? Like, it's got to be above a certain temperature. It can't be below a certain temperature. All the grandkids have to be there. You know, if all those boxes get check marked off, he might take the modified out and run it then.
So how come you got into the announcing side as opposed to the racing side?
Well, talent first and foremost, and that's even debatable sometimes, right? I got a face made for radio, actually, so I figure that's part of it. But you see me race, Scott, right? Like, it's
I see. I've been noticing your note over your shoulder there.
Well, I thought that was appropriate. Yeah, I thought that was
the whiteboard. Yeah.
So you participated in our. I think that was the last Celebrity Charity Race we ever did.
We brought
could be the reason.
Yeah, I think we broke some things.
Yeah, I think
you didn't. Other people did.
We can blame Clay for that, right? Clay Kurtzenbauer, didn't he? Yeah. I think he tore up.
I think he tried to take the wall down, and
he did. He tried to take the wall down. Yeah, he did. But again, the guy that led the most laps in that race. I want to make sure that this is documented on the podcast here, right? Okay. Didn't win, but led the most laps.
Wasn't that because
where did he finish?
I got third. I know that. I think Scott.
Me and Dan Rice wrecked, and I think we got Norm Van Ness in it, and then.
Yeah, I remember
Norm won. I think I finished second.
Norm won. You were second, and I was third. Yeah, and I remember that. I was catfishing around the bottom. I was in Carl Spore's car, and I was not going to take that car off the bottom no matter what. And then with about 3 laps to go, you or Norm, one of the two come. Actually, I think both of you come ripping around the high side, and I thought, well, I can keep up with these guys. That's no problem. I gave a little too much gas one time getting off the corner, and it probably felt 10 times more sideways than what it actually was. And I was like, oh, no, we'll back off of it. We'll just be happy, keep bringing her home in one piece with a podium finish.
That was actually, I ended up buying that car after.
I know you did. I know.
Yeah, that was my first race.
Imagine if you would have been in Ron's car. Imagine how much
I hated every minute of that, Scott.
Of what? When I was in your car?
No, no, we won't even go there.
All right.
I don't know about you, but that one sure scared me.
But did you have fun, Dustin, in that race?
Blast. I had an absolute blast, and I would, if the opportunity ever came up again, I would absolutely jump on it. It was a lot of fun. I borrowed a racing suit from John Henry to wear, and it was really cool because it was
the Eldora. It
was.
Race.
That's
that
exactly
was awesome.
what it was. Yeah, he had won the Eldora Track Championship the year before, and back then, and they might still do this. Eldora would give their track champions a brand new race suit and had the giant Eldora logo on it. So I looked, and I was still announcing at Eldora then, so I looked all Eldora official except for the belt, the name thing on the bottom of the belt. It said John Henry on it, and he was 10 times better looking than me. So there was no way that I was going to fool anybody, both in terms of looks or driving talent there.
A little duct tape would hide that.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Oh, well, look at offers are already coming in for you.
Tim Conover is going to put me in Jordan's car. Look, I have a lot of respect for the Conovers. I would never put them in that position. And Andy King has been on me for a long time to race one of his trucks too. So of course I keep seeing that they're all for sale. So I don't know, like $3,500. I could go race one of them. Hell,
there you go. I know Jerry Keyser, who has been on the show with us off and on. He just ended up selling his. And I know he had a lot of fun in that, especially when he went upside down.
I can't imagine Jerry being upside down, though. Oh, boy.
Not for very long, anyway.
Maybe we'll have to revisit. It's been over 10 years, so maybe a
lot of people have forgotten.
Exactly.
Maybe it's time. That's right. That's right.
All right. So now you not only announce, but you're also a global partnership manager. What does that mean?
It sounds really important, doesn't it?
It does.
It's actually just a made up title that I'm just kidding. So I am basically a middleman for FloRacing and all of our partnerships, right? So the easiest way to put it is, and that's my full-time job. Announcing's like 3% of what I do. We sign a rights contract, right? And racing rights contracts are not that dissimilar from baseball, football, and other sports right now. There's a series or an event or a track we want the rights to, or maybe they approach us and say, hey, we'd love to have this event or this series on FloRacing. Our team goes through and they say, okay, well, based on this, that, and the other, we feel as though that we can get this much money out of it. And so we're going to offer you this much money for the rights. Once we sign that rights deal, I'm basically the next person it goes to. And all I'm trying to do is make sure that all the balls are staying up in the air that we're juggling, right? I'm getting the appropriate folks from Flo connected to the appropriate folks with the track or with the series. If there's ever an issue, I'm usually the first person it goes to. 9 times out of 10, I don't have an answer for what has gone wrong or what the issue is, but I do try to diagnose the problem and get back to them. That way they're not bouncing around all over to 800 different people, right? So that's the long and short version of what I do. And again, I mean, announcing is really, really and truly is only a very, very, very small fraction of what I do.
Now, do a lot of tracks come to FloRacing to try and get them to cover? Or?
Really, yeah, there really are, man. It's good and bad, right? Like, and again, I say this just being very candid with you guys. We would love to have twice as much as what we have now too. That's the again, if you're looking at the scale, that's one side of it. The other side, kind of balance that out though. You have to take a look at your resources, right? And what's available. It's not necessarily just resources in terms of money. That's resources in terms of other conversations that we've had here, in terms of camera folks, in terms of equipment and everything else. There's only so many capable camera people of going out and doing this. The first time you put someone out there that's not capable, or the first time a broadcast goes down because the equipment isn't up to par, that's not a reflection on the track. That comes back on us, right? And so it's a balancing act in trying to determine what you have the resources and capability to do, but what there's interest in as well, and just trying to balance all of that out. And again, we've been approached by a lot more folks than what we have, and again, we would love to do all of them, but we also don't want to do those folks or that series a disservice by maybe not providing a broadcast that's not up to snuff, and vice versa as well. It works both ways. It's reflection on them, reflection on us. I really and truly, and again, this isn't a homer statement, I really and truly believe Flo's probably at the best point that it's ever been in right now in terms of finding that balance with some really good national stuff. Again, like Lucas Oil, like the All-Star Sprints, like USAC, tons of really good asphalt stuff, the NASCAR weekly racing stuff we have. We've got, we just announced a few weeks ago, we got the Cars Tour, the Dale Earnhardt Jr. is back, and we have Smart Modifieds. So some really good stuff on both sides on kind of a national level, or with national recognition or national flavor to it. And then some really, really great regional stuff too, right? We've got Comp Cam's late models. We've got Ray Cook's Spring and Southern Nationals, IRA sprints, ASCS sprints. So I think it's a really neat balance of things that we have that, no disrespect to any others, but it's really and truly different from what most other folks are offering right now too.
What about
I've seen some startups too that seem to be doing an okay job. So it's more than just the big two.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot. It's really funny right now because 5 years ago everything was pay-per-view, right? There was not this buy a yearly subscription and watch it all for $150 or whatever. It was $20 for this race, $40 for this one,
right? Absolutely,
$30.99 there. And everybody complained, why can't we just get one subscription, so it's slowly but surely, that was the model everyone shifted to. Now a lot of the track owners and promoters are thinking, oh, wait a minute, if we do some sort of pay-per-view deal, maybe we can get more money back out of it versus going with someone else. And so that's why you see, Ron, some of these other ones kind of popping up and doing things like that. Certainly not a bad model, but I think that what they end up quickly finding out is there's a lot more to it than just setting a person up on scaffolding and with a tripod and video. Because again, the first time that video goes down, you got a whole new set of problems that you're looking at. Or the first time someone has a credit card issue, right, with trying to buy that, again, you got a whole other set of problems to go through. And so I don't know, maybe it's a sign of my age and getting wiser, but the older I get, the more I realize that my time is worth some money as well. And I want to go with not just the simplest that I can go with. I want to go with the best, the best that I can go with that's going to elevate myself or my company or my racetrack or whatever it is that I have a stake in.
How many local weekly tracks does Flo cover approximately?
Man, that's a great question that I don't know the answer to. I can tell you that we have, in terms of racing, we partner with about 200 different, again, series and tracks and organizations, et cetera. And even that is kind of a broad swing, right? NASCAR is a great example because, I mean, under that NASCAR weekly racing banner, we've got 12 or 15 racetracks there. In terms of dirt tracks, gosh, I hesitate to mention any because I'm sure that I'm going to leave a few out, but I mean, we've got all of Port Royal stuff weekly. Marshalltown, Iowa is one of my favorite racetracks. We have their stuff weekly. We had Lincoln, Pennsylvania weekly. We've actually worked with them to back that down to about 10 select events at Lincoln throughout the course of the year. Brett Deo, we've got all of his racetracks weekly. So that's Utica, Rome, Fonda, Georgetown, and then, of course, his short track Super Series as well. Port City, which is weekly micro racing out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We have their stuff weekly. So there's a lot of them. And again, I'm forgetting several, right? Not intentionally, but and in the essence of time, those are some of the ones that cover multiple different aspects and layers of racing that we have. And again, we could have really and truly, we could have a lot more than that. But again, it's finding that balance of what works for us, but also what works for them as well, and providing a quality product for the people that are watching at home. And look, and getting back to another point that we had, not taking butts out of seats, right? That's not the business we're in, because look, if anybody, Flo, Dirt Vision, Speed Sport, whoever, if we're taking butts out of seats, not only is that not good for the track, that's not good for us either, because that means that track is probably teetering, and I mean, there's a possibility they may not be around. Well, that's certainly not good for us. We're not in the business to run anybody out of business, right? It's quite the opposite. We want to showcase the tracks in the best light that we can possibly showcase them in. Again, going back to our earlier conversation, so that we can get people out to these tracks, so that people watching at home talking about this balance, right? Showing these tracks in the best spotlight we can show them in, so somebody can say, hot dog, I got to get to Oakshade some Saturday night and watch these guys, watch Devin Shields go out and battle Rusty Schlenk and these other guys and Ron Miller for a late model win,
Did you Google these names ahead of time? Or
No, I still stay very, very, very connected with my Northwest Ohio roots. I read Oakshade's results religiously every week. I read Attica's results religiously every week. Limaland, I still check out Limaland's results. Waynesfield, when they have a race, I do. I Fremont, I really try to stay connected with that stuff as much as I can.
When do you sleep?
Overrated.
What's sleep, right? What's sleep?
Well, mention, I'm sure there's some of our listeners that probably don't have Flow. If somebody wanted to get Flow, since we've been talking about it so much, you go ahead and plug your product.
Give yourself a commercial.
Give myself a commercial break. Yeah, it's super easy. You can go to either flowsports.com or flowracing.com. It's FLO, as you can see on the banner back here behind me, the Flow Racing Night in America banner. It's Flow Racing. It's $150 for the entire year. That gives you all access to everything. There's no pay-per-view models. We don't hold any races back. That $150 gets you access to, other than the King's Royal, every event at Eldora. It gives you access to the Gateway Dirt Nationals, gives you access to every All-Star Sprint race, access to every single USAC race, both USAC National and USAC West Coast. It gives you access to IRA sprints, Comp Cam's late models, NASCAR weekly racing. I mean, at last count, there was well over 2,000 races over the course of a calendar year. It was at one point up above, I think, 2,400. But yeah, that's more racing than I will ever watch in my entire life.
Is it also, doesn't it, I don't know if it still is, but I thought that Flow actually has other sports as well. And you have access to that
Flow's actually
ECHL hockey.
You're exactly right. Yep.
Yes.
Flow's actually got go Wheeling Nailers, by the way.
Toledo Walleye.
Walleye.
I've seen many Nailers and Walleye game in my time. But
did I see something that the Nailers are folding after this year?
Boy, I hope not.
I thought I saw something like a month ago, but it might have been. Anyway,
it might be inside information.
I don't think it was inside information. I saw it on a Facebook post, so I thought it had to be true.
Oh, it had to be real.
If you read it on Facebook, it's got to be true.
Yes, exactly.
No, Flow, you're exactly right. Flow's got a lot of other sports. Flow hockey, Flow wrestling, Flow track, Flow volleyball, Flow football. There's a ton of stuff on there that really and truly is enough to satisfy any sports fan. And again, I don't really want to sound like a homer, but that is yes, thank you, Dave. The best $150 that you've ever spent. But it really and truly is. In a day and age where a lot of people are kind of cutting the cord to TV and things like that, if you are a sports fan of any kind, racing aside, I firmly believe in my heart that Flow is a great resource to watch a lot of cool stuff, and it's underrepresented stuff as well, right? And the people that work in it are super passionate about what we do. It's not just one guy that likes racing that is working in racing. The football stuff are people that love football. The jiu-jitsu stuff are people that love jiu-jitsu. The grappling stuff is people that love grappling, right? So these people that work at Flow, my colleagues, they're really, really passionate about their sports. And as you guys know, and probably everyone watching at home knows too, when you're really passionate about something that you like, I think that passion bleeds through into the work that you do, and it makes a better product. And I firmly believe that.
How close are you guys to getting some in-car cameras?
Man, it's funny that you say that. That conversation actually just came up about a month ago or so. So we did a test on that at Eldora back in 2020 when we had the replacement races, right? Mm-hmm. When they had the not the Dream, they had the Stream, and not the World 100, they had the Intercontinental Classic. The reason we were able to pull it off there at those particular events is because there was less than 500 people on the grounds, right? There's, you don't have 25,000 people there all on their cell phones and everything else. So the reception, the ability to transmit that into, into the mobile production studio was a lot easier. To try to do that at an event where you've got any more people than that on the grounds is almost impossible. At least with the technology that groups like Flow and again Speed Sport and Dirt Vision and some of these others have right now. It's coming. It will come at some point, but to the point of the conversation that we've had here today, at least on our side on Flow, we're not going to do anything if we know it's not 100%. We could go out there. We could go out there and try it right now, right? But we're not going to do it unless we know that it's up to our standards and going to really add to a broadcast and add value to the viewers at home.
I thought that the driver's eye camera that NASCAR has showcased the last couple of weeks, pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That is really cool. It's not above the helmet. It's not on the side, but it's right. It's a camera. What they say as big as like your pinky nail or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, it's literally like right here, like right between their eyes, I think, mounted on their on their helmet. And so that's super cool. That's awesome, especially like at Daytona. It really gave you a feel for the banking of the racetrack, how close the cars were, and even kind of how
the vibration and the bumps.
Yes,
absolutely,
the vibration, exactly.
You don't get that on dirt tracks at all, though.
Never, never. Every racetrack's super smooth.
Yeah. Well, Dustin, we appreciate the time. Before we let you go, though, I want to mention that usually our guests go on to win their next race. So assuming we can resurrect the Celebrity Charity Race, we'll definitely have you back on. We expect Flo to cover it.
That's
if
right,
we do that. We'll have to work out some deal with that for some Flo coverage.
I've spent a lot of time talking about what a quality product I can't think of any better quality product than the Celebrity Charity Race at Oakshade, right? I mean, that is top. That's top of the line stuff right there.
That all happened just because I wanted an excuse to get in a race car when I was announcing. It worked for a few years.
Until we went out there and destroyed cars, and then it never happened again. So,
well, like I said, people's memories may not be that long. So
that's right. That's exactly right.
We'll see what we can do.
Well, I mean, and we'd probably have a dozen drivers. Oh yeah, well, let's put DJ in the car.
Well, you've already had offers. So
I've had offers right now. Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
even if Flo can't do it live, I mean, we expect at least a packaged presentation.
Oh no, I want the whole thing, man. I want it to be live. I want the helmet cam right between my eyes.
Oh yeah.
I want to go all in.
There you go. That could be the debut of the in-car camera.
That's right. That's right.
Oh yeah, that answers your Raina's question there. She wants to know when you're coming back to Oakshade.
Yes. When am I coming back to Oakshade? It's been a few years. I had to look. It was 2020, I think, the last time I was there. So it's been a couple years since I was at the Shade.
Okay.
I miss everybody there. I miss all of you. I miss you guys, the Hendricks. I miss the drivers up there. It's I really and truly do, because it's as both of you know. I mean, back when I was the house announcer at Eldora from 2010 to 15, when we weren't racing on a Saturday, I mean, I would come to Oakshade. I would come to Oakshade, and I was still doing some writing and stuff for Dirt on Dirt back then as well. So, but I do. I miss it. The folks there, Attica, those tracks. Those again. I mentioned earlier. Those places will still have they'll always have a special place in my heart.
I should ask you this, because Rick Eshelman used to do Eldora as well. Did you work with Rick directly?
Yeah. Rick and I several different times over the course of the years. Yeah, we did. Rick and I were pretty good friends, actually. He would we worked together at Eldora, like the Dreamwood World, those first few years. We collaborated on a few other events after that as well. That we were streaming, live on Dirt back before Dirt on Dirt was acquired by Flow, and Rick and I got to be actually pretty close. He would call me often in between racetracks, more specifically because he knew that much like him, I had an affinity for old closed racetracks, right? And that, as you guys probably know, that was one of his passions. And so he would, it would not be out of the ordinary for my phone to just randomly ring in the middle of the day someday. And I look down and he's calling, and he was just looking to kill time in between visiting a couple old abandoned racetracks. He would tell me all about the tracks, the track that he found or track that he went to, and everything else. The other time that he would call me would be if Blair Nodorf out of Renner, South Dakota was racing, we nicknamed him Snowdrift way back in the day. Rick was as you guys know, Rick was a big nickname guy. He wanted to give everybody a nickname, right? And he and I always talked about that. But he loved that nickname for Blair Nodorf. He loved that we called him Snowdrift. And so anytime that Nodorf would be at a race that he was calling, Rick would immediately pick the phone during registration, mind you, and call me, be like, DJ, Snowdrift is in the house. And so that was, it's little things like that, right, that you miss about someone. They're the obvious things like working together and announcing together, things like that. But the Snowdrift phone calls and then the phone calls in between, those abandoned racetracks, those are admittedly the things that I probably miss most about Rick.
Speaking of abandoned racetracks, that's where I first started announcing was with him at Millstream.
Oh my, yeah,
Flag City at the time.
Yeah,
it's not abandoned; it's just sleeping.
It's.
I know a guy that tried to resurrect that a few years ago.
Yeah. So do we. We know several guys that have tried to resurrect it. We were even involved in part of it. So yeah. And anyways,
I thought honestly, Scott, I thought you were going to say Brian. I thought Brian might have been where you got your stars.
That was going to be my next question. Was what about Bryan Motor Speedway? Do you remember Brian?
I never. So I went and visited. That was one. That was an abandoned track that I visited right back in, probably 2003. I went up and checked out what was left of it, but that's
pretty sad.
Yeah, I never got to see a race there, and that was. I mean, again, I only lived in Northwest Ohio from 04 to 14, so for about 10 years, right? But it had closed before the time that I got there, but I did get to go to the site of the track once.
We moved to Bryan from the Cleveland area in like 81, I think it was, and somehow we ended up like a mile from the track. So my dad would take me there every Sunday night and we go watch the races. But we moved away in 87. So I was still in high school, not announcing or anything. So it was closed well before I started any of that.
I did, like you, I did get to call a few races at Millstream though, for Dean back when Dean Miracle.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of the other closed ones. I visited Scutch one time, long after it closed.
Yeah.
McCutcheonsville. Yeah. Again, never got to see a race there because it closed before I was up that way.
Well, that guy, I think it was Dean Plaxis or something, had purchased it, and I thought it was on its way to being reopened, and then it fell apart.
Yeah, tough to do now anymore, right? Like, it's all the respect in the world to anybody that promotes a racetrack, even more respect to anybody that either opens a new track or resurrects a racetrack, because it's, as we talked about earlier, again, it's not easy. It is not easy at all.
Requires lots of money.
That is, yes. So, hey, you know how you make a small fortion, right? Is you start
with a big one.
Start with a big one and get a racetrack, and then you're left with a small one.
There you go. Well, Dustin, we should probably wrap this up. We could probably talk for another couple hours, but I appreciate the time. If Flow Racing ever wants to be a sponsor of the show, let me know. We can.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Hey, I give you some free advertising. Yeah. So what's the next event that's coming up on Flow?
Oh gosh,
next big event.
We have literally got something. I mean,
you're looking it up right now, aren't you?
Every single day of the week, I am looking it up right now because I don't know. We've actually got Ray Cook's Spring Nationals this weekend from Swainsboro and Sonoy, I believe. And those actually might be sneaky good races. They both pay $10,000 to win. Some other stuff, World of Outlaws at Smoky Mountain got rained out. So if Ray's able to get those races in at $10,000 to win, you might have some sneaky good fields with those. The next really, really big one is probably going to be that outside of the Lucas Oil late model series coming up. Actually here in Ohio at Atomic, and then Brownstown, Indiana. After that, again, it's probably going to be that Larson Suite, that high limit race out in Tulare, California, coming up on March 21st, a Tuesday.
If it doesn't get snowed out.
Oh my gosh, isn't that the truth? I mean, I've been after seeing the weather at Fontana this past weekend, I've been trying to stalk the future forecast, and I probably shouldn't have done that because now I'm sitting here thinking, God, I got to pack for like all 4 seasons just to go out there,
Well, I'm sure there's stores. Bring shorts if you need
you know,
pants.
Look, one of these days it's going to happen. One of these days I am going to go on one of these racing trips where I'm working, and I'm actually going to have to buy another suitcase just to haul my junk back home because I've had to go out and buy extra layers of clothes. People have given me shirts and polos and everything else to take home. It hasn't happened yet, but it's been real close a few times.
How many racers shirts have you purchased or acquired?
Have I purchased? Zero. Have I been given
acquired?
$1 million?
Okay.
And here's the thing, and I don't know if you're like this or not. This is no disrespect to any of the racers, but you know, a lot of times I'll wear those around home and everything else. I really try not to wear them to the racetrack, right? Because the last thing I ever want to do is I don't want someone to
alienate somebody.
Yeah, and because I am not, and I say that in 100% honesty, right? Because as you know, Scott, from doing this, and Ron, you know this from being a racer too. Really and truly, you become friends with just about all those guys, right? I mean, 95% of the guys in the pit area, you end up becoming friends with, whether you race, whether you announce, or whatever else. And that's the truth. That's how it is with my life. I'm super fortunate that I can call most of those guys and their crews and their families my friends. And so I don't want to walk around the pits with a Devin Moran t-shirt, for example, and then have someone say, "Oh, DJ, he's a big Devin Moran homer." You know, I knew it because you know how it is. We get that all the time, right? Bobby Pierce is a great example. Half the people out there say, "Oh, they love Pierce. He's all they talk about." The other half of the people are saying, "They never talk about Bobby Pierce. How come they're not mentioning it?" Like, I can't win. You can't win.
Yeah, I understand the not showing favoritism.
Yeah, so you know what? I found the best thing to do is just throw on a Flow Racing shirt, go about my business, and still, even then, you might piss off half the people. You just never know.
Flow Racing? I don't like that streaming service.
Get out of here.
All right, Dustin, we gotta let you go.
It's all good. I already told you I don't sleep. So,
real quick, Andy King wants to know what size shirt.
Oh yeah, here we go. See, and that'll be another one for me to wear around the house. Andy, I'm a medium. I mean, he's got my number. I'm sure he'll text me in just a minute anyway. So.
Have you been to Andy's dirt track truck series events?
I have seen them a time or two over the last few years. Yeah, and every time he's always on me. It was Kingdom County just last year or 2 years ago. He was on me. "I got an extra truck, man. You need to go out there and run one of these trucks." One of these days, Andy, one of these days it'll happen.
Yeah, do that race first before the Celebrity Charity Race. That way you can get your win out of the way.
I need to get warmed up. I need to get warmed up is what it is. You know, it's been a few years. I'm pretty rusty right now, Scott.
Well, maybe if Andy's got enough trucks, and I don't know, Oakshade hasn't released their schedule yet, so I don't know if there's a dirt track truck series event on the schedule this year or not. Maybe we could work something out.
Well, I may need all of his trucks, actually. If I go out and barrel roll one in hot laps,
nope.
I'll go step in another one for the heat race.
All right, no hot laps for Dustin. That solves that problem. All right, man, you take care. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on, and I promise I'll try to get up there and see you guys at some point this year.
All right, sounds
DJ,
good.
I think we'll have you back. We've had a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys and what you do for the sport as well.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right,
keep up
thanks,
the good
guys.
work. We'll see you.
See you, buddy.
There you go. Dustin Jarrett from Flow Racing. And, yeah, I still have a voice. I'm making it through here.
Yeah.
Got some pizza to get rid of. I was just reading one of the posts here. I remember DJ announcing at Muskegon, poking fun at Andy for breaking his clutch in his heat race after half-tracking the field. He wouldn't make fun of anybody like that. Nah. A little bit of racing roundup from this past weekend. Former guest Justin Peck finished second on opening night of the Icebreaker 30 at Lincoln Speedway in Pennsylvania. That was last Thursday night. On Sunday at Lincoln, he finished one spot better by winning the feature event. NASCAR action this past weekend. John Hunter Nemechek won the rain-delayed Production Alliance Group 300 Auto Club Speedway on Sunday after the Cup race, which was won by Kyle Busch on Sunday afternoon. That was
a pretty well-received win, too, Scott. You know,
he didn't get booed like normal.
No, he really didn't.
And then I guess there is a lot of social media backlash towards Joe Gibbs Racing, saying, haha, you let him go. Look what you did. You made a mistake. But, yeah. And then Denny Hamlin was like, no, shut up.
It was time.
It's a lot of drama there. Yeah, I mean, I get you can't. I mean, like him or hate him, he's a good driver. He gets the job done. So, and I do like his new number. That's all I can say there.
You would.
Make sure to call Big D's Pizza in Clyde, 419-547-1444. Order online at orderbigdspizza.com. Check out the new gourmet Reuben Bites with your choice of dipping sauce, just $5.99. They also have the seafood specials for Lent going on as well. Big D's in Clyde, big in taste, not on price. And Ron Miller Race Cars in Lambertville, 734-856-7223. That's where you are right now in Lambertville.
It is.
Yeah. Give them a call for anything you need, race cars, parts, safety equipment, seat belts, whatever.
I'm in the executive offices of Ron Miller Race Cars.
Oh, yeah, with just a few little trophies behind you there, huh?
Yeah, a couple.
All right.
Latest racing news.
Just a little bit of racing news here. After Tony Stewart, I don't know why I have.
I can't help you with that, Scott.
No, for some reason I was a little foggy when I was doing my prep earlier this week. Tony Stewart will race full-time in the Superstar Racing Experience season. Stewart, three-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, 1997 IndyCar champion, and SRX co-owner, will return to the series full-time for his third season. Stewart claimed the inaugural SRX championship in 2021 and finished fourth last season. Other full-time SRX racers this year include Marco Andretti, the defending champion, Paul Tracy, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Ryan Newman, Bobby Labonte, Haley Deegan, and Brad Keselowski. And then some other
Does that mean that Tony Stewart is stepping away from his drag racing career?
I don't believe so.
Oh.
Apparently, he just won't be drag racing on Thursday nights from, what is it, July and August?
Yeah.
Yeah. Barry Marlowe from Great Lakes Super Sprints has released a 2023 schedule for I-96 Speedway up there in Michigan, as previously reported by us and probably other people. Barry has rented the facility and will be promoting events there this season starting on Friday, April 21st. That show will have the Great Lakes Super Sprints, UMP late models, and mini wedges. There's going to be 9 nights of racing altogether. And that'll wrap up the final race on August 18th with the Great Lakes Super Sprints again, the Great Lakes Traditional Sprints, the Midwest Dirt Compact Touring Series, and mini wedges. Other classes on the schedule include the IMCA Modifieds and Pro Stocks. Full schedule can be seen on the I-96 Facebook page. For 2023, NASCAR has just announced changes in an attempt to fix the package for most short tracks, as well as road courses. The low downforce package is what they're going to be using. It's going to have 2 inches less rear spoiler than last year. So instead of 4, it's down to 2. And some other adjustments will... that package will make its debut at Phoenix. Package that they're going with there was one most drivers preferred. However, tracks such as Dover, Worldwide Technology Raceway, and Bristol Motor Speedway will not use this new low downforce package.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, supposedly they're trying to make the racing better. I don't know if that always works.
More manipulation.
Yes, exactly. No Hammer Down hotline messages this week. If you would like to call, text, do either. It's 419-318-3081. That's 419-318-3081. Call, text anytime, and if it's racing related, we'll bring it up on the show next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about we give away some pizza?
Yeah, it's time.
It is time.
How many?
This week, or actually last week's how many cars were going to finish on the lead lap of the Cup race. And that number was a lot lower than a lot of people thought.
Yeah.
You remember what you said? You said 37.
Yep.
And I said 36. And the actual
you
number
win.
was 20. 20 cars finished on the lead lap. They actually had the biggest crash ever, or crash involving the most cars ever at California in its history.
They definitely had a big one. Took out, I think, 8 cars.
That was on that restart, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the biggest crash at California Motor Speedway, or Auto Club, I should say. And that was the final race. They're going to be reconfiguring that to the half mile, as they've been talking about for the past few years, and it's going to take a couple years. So California will be without a race in 2024, I do believe.
Yeah, that was supposed to be their swan song. I don't know.
So our listener winner was technically Dean Henry. He picked 29. He was closest, but he owns the pizza shop. So Kurt Dickey was next closest with 30 was his number. So congratulations, Kurt Dickey. You have 30 days to claim your pizza from Big D's Pizza in Clyde. This week's how many? Just because doing something different, IndyCar's making their debut, their season debut, I should say, this weekend. How many IndyCars are going to finish on the lead lap of their season opener at St. Petersburg, Florida on Sunday? I have to choose, don't I?
Yes, you do. You were the big winner.
Yeah, I don't even know how many are starting, so I'm going to go with lucky 13.
I'm going 14.
All right, if you want a chance to win a Big D's Pizza, just put your guess, just put a number in our Facebook Live comments or our YouTube Live comments. Whoever's closest, doesn't matter if you go over or under, you will win a Big D's Pizza next week. And if we have a tie, you can guess the same number as someone else. We will spin the Big D's Pizza wheel to break that tie and determine the winner. So Dean Henry did good last week, and he's picking 21. It seems like a lot of cars. But I guess it is a road course. But
I don't think they do the lucky dog, though.
No, they don't. I don't know. I have no idea what it's going to be. Racing action coming up this weekend.
This weekend, Big D's Pizza Racing Menu.
So as Dustin mentioned earlier tonight, the World of Outlaw Case Construction Late Model Series was set to run the Tennessee Tip-Off tomorrow and Saturday. That has been postponed, I guess we can say, due to the unstable weekend forecast that includes the potential for thunderstorms, high winds, and the possibility of heavy rains. Tennessee Tip-Off at Smoky Mountain Speedway will now be run on Thursday, March 16th. So it's going to be a one-day event instead of two. World of Outlaw NAS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series set to be in action for the Low E Insulation Spring Showdown at Volusia Speedway Park. That's on Sunday and Monday, March 5th and 6th. NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series back in action at Las Vegas Motor Speedway on Friday night for the Victoria's Voice Foundation 200. That'll be at 9 p.m. on FS1. Xfinity Series, they'll have the Alsco Uniforms 300 at Las Vegas. That's going to be Saturday, 4:30 p.m. on FS1. And Cup Series Pennzoil 400 presented by Jiffy Lube at Las Vegas on Sunday at 3:30, and that race should be on Fox. Of course, all these times Eastern for our listeners in Australia. Eastern U.S., I should say. And the NTT IndyCar Series makes their season debut with the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg in St. Petersburg, Florida. That's on Sunday at noon on NBC. So, and there's the all-wheels.
Boy, that's kind of tough for the folks in California. That race comes off at 9 in the morning.
Yeah. The all-wheels swap meet's going on at Fremont this weekend, right, Ron?
It is.
Okay. So don't forget
all days. I think if you want to have a spot, you can load in on Friday. It's Saturday only.
Okay. And speaking of how many, if you're listening to us on the podcast, on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever.
Or wherever.
Yeah. Once you're done listening, which you'll be done in just a couple minutes because we're about done here, head on over to our Facebook page or the YouTube channel and find the video for Thursday night show. Put your guess in as long as it's before noon Eastern time on Sunday. We'll give it right up till race time. Then you can get your guess in. After 12:01, though, it's too late.
Sounds fair to me.
There you go. You can get your chance to win that Big D's pizza. Big thanks to our associate producer, Dave Kemmer, this week for helping out while I was very foggy.
Suffering from cooties.
Cooties, yes. First time getting cooties since the cootie pandemic began. So now I got it out of the way. It's all good. Also, thanks to contributors Matt Swander, John Young, Doug Dock, Bob Stazak. Make sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Hammer Report, follow us on YouTube, listen to us on your favorite podcasting platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Check us out at HammerdownRacingReport.com. If you want to be a sponsor, we got sponsorship information on there. You can check out the shows on there. Everything you need to know. And also make sure to rate and review us. Share us with your friends. It helps us out with all those weird social media algorithms. Thanks to our sponsors, including our brand new one. Make sure to support DCR Graphics. If you're a race car driver and getting your car ready for this year, you need a nice wrap, give DCR Graphics a call. Also thanks to Big D's Pizza, Oakshade Raceway, Ron Miller Race Cars, Freeze Frame Photos, and Headhunters Barber Studio and Salon. Thanks
do we know if DCR Graphics has a Facebook page?
They do. Facebook.com/DCR Graphics.
There we go.
Graphics spelled normally. ICS at the end. Some other graphics places do an IX. Not them. So, thanks again to our guest, Dustin Jarrett. It was great talking to him. We'll have another great guest next week on the show. Tune in live Thursday, 7 o'clock. We'll be back. And hopefully Ron will be back in the studio. In this studio.
I'm ready.
You ready?
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right. Well, I'll have to make sure that all the cooties are gone, but I think I'm off of my restrictions as of tomorrow. So.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'll see you next week.
Yes, we will.
And everybody
Thanks
else.
for listening, folks.
See ya.
You have been listening to the Hammer Down Racing Report, available on demand on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting platform.